All right, today's lesson is on simplifying square roots. First thing you should do is grab a calculator, okay? If you have something like the square root of 24, and you take the square root of that number, what do you get? Okay, should be getting a decimal like 4.8989, something like that. Okay, today we're going to teach you a method where we can simplify the square root without just turning it into a decimal. Okay, and so forget plugging it into your calculator. What we're thinking about today is what types of perfect squares are inside the number 24. So like when you talk about perfect squares, we're talking about all these numbers. We had a list on my board at one point that got erased. When you square 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4 is 16. 5 times 5 is 25. 6 times 6 is 36. 7 times 7 is 49. Okay, that's just an example, but this is my list of perfect squares right here. Okay, some of those, and it goes on and on and on. So when I look at the square root of 24, I'm asking, are any of those things that 24 is divisible by? Okay, so can I take 24 divided by any of those numbers in that box? And you should hopefully be able to see that, hey, 4 would work, right? 24 divided by 4 equals 6. So what we're saying is I could simplify this square root of 24, break that down into 4 times 6. Okay? And so what I can do is I can take the square root of the 4. Square root of 4 is 2. And then I'm going to have the square root of 6 left over inside there. Okay, so it would simplify to 2 square root 6. So we might see something like this today in our homework. An example sort of like maybe x squared equals 12. And so just like yesterday's assignment, you'll take the square root of both sides first. And you'll get x on the right or on the left side, and then 12. What does 12 break down into? Think about what numbers that might be. And then let's go ahead and stick our plus or minus on front of it. Okay, but 12 breaks down into 4 times 3, with 4 being the important number there, right, from the perfect square list. And so then I can take it one more step. I can simplify it to 2, because the square root of 4 is 2. 2 square root 3, plus or minus. And that's how I would leave my answer. Okay, let's try another one. Let's do m squared equals 32. So we take the square root of both sides, get m equals plus or minus. Now, how can I break down 32? Go back up to this list. Start right here because 32 would fit in right there. Can you do 32 divided by 25? No, you'll get a decimal. Can you do 32 divided by 16? Working this way. 32 divided by 16? Yes, that works. So 16 times 2. If you take the square root of 16, you get 4. And so you leave the 2 inside the square root. So you would have positive and negative 4 square root 2. What about if you had something a little more complicated, like a squared minus 2 equals 73. Okay, you'd want to get a squared by itself, so add 2 to both sides. So a squared equals 75. Then you'd want to square root both sides. So a would equal plus or minus. Now, 75 is 25 times 3. Okay, so I would go back up to my list. You know, this is 8 and 64, 9 and 81. So I would go 75. I would start here. And so 64, that's a decimal. 49, that's a decimal. 36, that results in a decimal. 25 works when I'm dividing. So 25 and 3. I could write it like this. And then the square root of 25 is 5. And the square root of 3 gives me a decimal, so I leave it as the square root of 3. Okay? All right, that's your lesson. Hopefully that makes some sense. You've got a homework assignment to work on. Remember, plus or minus on your answers. All right, we'll see you on Wednesday.